Good morning everyone, thanks for the chance given to me. Now I want to present the article and the title is Sources of Linguistic Knowledge in the Second Language Acquisition of English article. The first is introduction. This article discusses the three main resources of knowledge in second language learning. The first is L2 input, L1 transfer, and innate linguistic knowledge or universal grammar. The study focuses on how learners acquire English articles such as the and a. It examines whether learners transfer meaning from their first language or learn only through L2 input. The results show that all meaning from their first language, three sources work together. English article use cannot be learned from input alone, but also depends on L1 influence and innate grammatical knowledge. The section discusses the challenges that second language or L2 learners face in acquiring English article like the and a. Research has shown that learners whose first language or L1 like article like Korean and Japanese often omit or misuse than modern learners whose L1 have article system like Spanish. The paper investigates two questions. The first is whether L1 transfer affects how L2 learners use and understand English article. The second, whether L2 learners can access universal semantic distinction in article use even without L1 influence. The text then explains the semantic of English article, mainly the differences between definiteness and specificity. Definiteness, the article that is used when the reference is unique and known to both speaker and listener based on prior knowledge and context. Indefiniteness, the article is used when the referent is not unequivocally defined or newly introduced. Examples show how the purpose unknown or unique object while introduce something new. The discussion highlights the understanding when to use the or involves not only grammar but also discourse context and shared knowledge between speaker and listener. The next is method. This method examines how the speaker of Russian and Spanish learn English article as a second language. The participant, 23 Russian speakers aged 22 to 72 who learned English after moving to the US. 24 Mexican Spanish speakers aged 19 to 28 studying English at a Mexican university. 6 native English speakers aged 90 and 25 as the control group. Test, the first clause test, filling in the missing words in text to measure English proficiency. The second, elicitation test, completing blanks in short dialogues to test the use of and the. The goal was to compare how to the groups learn and use English article. The next is result. Participants were divided into 3 proficiency levels like beginner, intermediate, and advanced, based on their close test scores. Spanish learners show high accuracy and consistency in using article, while Russian learners' performance was more various. In the elicitation test, native English speakers use the N correctly 100% of the time. Spanish learners were nearly as accurate, whereas Russian learners were only partly correct, performing better in definite and indefinite contexts. The next is discussion. The findings show the differences are not due to proficiency or English exposure, but due first language transfer or L1 transfer. Spanish learners were more accurate because the article system in Spanish is similar to English, while Russian learners struggle since Russian lacks such a system. Spanish learners' performance can be explained by L1 transfer and universal grammar, whereas Russian learners were influenced by multiple factors such as L1 transfer, explicit instruction, and language input. The study concludes that learners' understanding of English article is strongly shaped by their first language structure and learning experiences. The last is conclusion. The study found the acquisition of English article is influenced by three main factors: L1 transfer, input, and universal grammar. Spanish learners can transfer the article system from their first language to English, while Russian learners cannot since Russian lacks article. Therefore, Russian learners rely to universal grammar and language input to learn article patterns. Learners fluctuate between definiteness and specificity until input helps them identify the correct patterns. These patterns cannot be explained by statistical learning alone, but rather indicate the role of the main specific linguistic knowledge in second language acquisition. That's all my presentation. That's all for me, and thank you.